Before I dive into this wild story of betrayal, revenge, and karma so sweet it'll make you grin for days, I want you to smash that subscribe button right now because you don't want to miss stories where greedy Karens, power-hungry neighbors, and entitled people get the exact dose of justice they deserve. And today's story is about how an HOA Karen tried to steal my lake, gift it to her spoiled son, called the cops on me when I didn't bow down, and ended up learning the hard way that I control the very HOA budget she thought gave her power over me. It all started when I moved into what I thought would be my dream property, a sprawling ranch with wide open fields, a cozy log-style home, and most importantly, a private lake right at the edge of my land, a sparkling blue jewel that had been on the property for generations and something I cherished not just for fishing and swimming but as a symbol of peace I had worked my whole life to earn. But what I didn't realize was that moving into this neighborhood meant dealing with a homeowners association, and worse, dealing with a woman everyone quietly referred to as Karen, because she carried herself with that entitled attitude that made you want to run in the opposite direction, and soon enough I found myself right in the middle of one of the most insane HOA battles you can imagine. It started innocently enough with Karen showing up at my door with that tight smile people wear when they pretend to be friendly but can barely hide their envy. She brought me one of those fruit baskets that looks good until you realize all the fruit is plastic, and she immediately launched into how things work in the neighborhood, telling me that the HOA oversees everything and that she, as the self-appointed queen bee, expected me to share my lake with the neighborhood since community resources belong to everyone, to which I calmly replied that the deed clearly marked the lake as part of my private property. But of course she waved her manicured hand like property laws were just minor inconveniences and gave me that sly look that said she wasn't asking, she was demanding. I brushed it off until a week later when I came home to find Karen and her son lounging on my dock, blasting music, with her son's friends swimming in the lake like it was a public pool, and when I confronted them Karen had the audacity to say she had already gifted the lake to her son for his birthday, as if she owned it. As if she could just write me out of the picture like some background character in her little HOA drama, and when I told them to leave she whipped out her phone and said she was calling the cops because apparently, in her twisted logic, I was trespassing on my own land. The officers arrived, clearly tired of her antics because this wasn't their first rodeo with her, but Karen put on her fake tears and shrill voice telling them I was harassing children and stealing a community asset. Yet when I calmly produced the deed paperwork, showing the property line and the clear ownership of the lake, the cops gave her a warning and told her to stop wasting their time, which made her stomp away red-faced, dragging her son behind her. But instead of learning her lesson she doubled down, rallying the HOA against me with claims that I was selfish and refused to cooperate with the community spirit. Little did she know that in my line of work I had been part of real estate development and financial planning, and when I bought into this neighborhood, I had quietly maneuvered my way into a trustee position that gave me oversight of the HOA budget, meaning every dime spent had to go through my review, a fact Karen clearly overlooked in her blind arrogance, and this, my friends, was the seed of her downfall. The next weeks turned into a circus of pettiness as she kept sending violation notices to my mailbox, accusing me of everything from grass too long to unauthorized fencing. Even though I followed every rule to the letter, she even demanded I remove my barn because she claimed it blocked the neighborhood aesthetic, which was hilarious since my property sat acres away from the nearest road, but I played it cool, letting her dig her own grave while quietly preparing my counterattack. Then came the twist. Karen decided to organize a lake party for her son and his friends, plastering flyers across the neighborhood that literally said, "Celebrate at our lake," as if she was the hostess of my property. And when I found out, I called a tow company in advance to remove every car that tried to park illegally on my land. I hired security to politely redirect anyone who tried to step foot on my dock, and I sat on my porch sipping iced tea watching Karen's little event crumble as her guests were turned away one by one until her son had a tantrum in the driveway. But instead of admitting defeat she stormed into the next HOA meeting and demanded the board seize my lake as a community asset and allocate HOA funds to beautify it for everyone's use. But here's where the real twist came. I, as budget controller, simply froze all discretionary spending, meaning not a single dime could be used without my approval, and when she screamed at me across the table that I was abusing my power, I calmly reminded everyone that she had been using HOA funds for her own landscaping, private driveway repairs, and even repainting her house, things she illegally slipped into the community improvement column. And when I laid out the receipts in front of the entire HOA board, her face went pale like the last color had drained from her entitled soul. Neighbors who had once been scared to cross her were suddenly whispering and glaring because they realized Karen had been funneling their fees into her personal piggy bank for years, and I could see the tide turning against her in real time. But she didn't give up easily. She tried one last desperate move by filing a complaint with the county claiming my lake was an unregistered water feature, and therefore illegal, thinking she could bury me in red tape. But I had anticipated this and already registered the lake as a historical landmark tied to the original ranch deed, which not only protected it but gave me tax breaks. And when the county official laughed in her face and told her to stop wasting government resources, she finally snapped, screaming in the parking lot that I had ruined her son's life, because he deserved a lake, and couldn't be expected to share a public school pool with common kids. A meltdown so public that videos ended up on social media, going viral under the title, HOA Karen loses it over lake ownership. And let me tell you, the comments roasted her so hard she stopped showing her face in town for weeks. The HOA board, embarrassed by her behavior and the financial mismanagement I had exposed, voted her out of her chair position, stripped her of any authority, and turned full control of the HOA budget to me, which I then used to lower unnecessary fees, fix actual community issues like street lighting and playground equipment, and build goodwill with neighbors who realized I wasn't the selfish villain Karen had painted me to be. And the cherry on top was watching her son sulk every time he biked past my property, staring longingly at the sparkling water he thought was his birthday present, but now forever out of reach, while I sat on the dock with my fishing pole and the sweet satisfaction of knowing Karen had lost everything she tried to steal. And that, my friends, is how Karen called the cops. After gifting my ranch lake to her son, not knowing I controlled the HOA budget, and ended up sinking in the very hole she dug for me, proving once and for all that entitlement plus arrogance is no match for preparation, patience, and a little bit of poetic justice.